Alright, so I'm working on my 2008 Mazda 6i, and today we're going to be replacing the heater core in here. Now this is going to be a pretty big job, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Okay, I just wanted to show you real quick. I've got a 3/4 adapter and I've just connected both of these hoses together, and you can see that it's not even connected to the heater core at all at this point. Now you could have several symptoms, from leaking to flat out that your heater's not working, and in which case, you know, it could be stopped up. So you can a lot of times check that out by filling your hoses. If it's not pretty warm on both of them, then you're getting some blockage there. So anyways, we're just going to go ahead and get started. So we're just going to take our 10mm and get our negative loose here before we start messing with anything. Okay, so with that off, we'll just go ahead and get on the inside and get started here. Okay, in here, the first thing I'm going to focus on is going to be this console. I like to just get it out of the way first. This piece, you'll want to pull emergency brake back. We'll want to also get this in neutral as well. But this piece here has just tabs. You just lift straight up and we pull that straight off of there, and now we can work on this up here. Okay, and just give this a tug back here. We'll have some connections. Don't pull it too far. And we do have to turn this counterclockwise here. I was getting ahead of myself. And just we'll set that aside. Now we can lift this up, and so we'll get the connection from underneath here. Okay, if you come under here, these it's got some little bulbs that are going from this wire, and to get enough slack, we have to go ahead and twist those out to get those out of the way. We got one on each side. You can see the other one on that other side there. So I've got the one on this side. Now I'm going to have to reach over on that other side and just twist that bulb. I'm going to just feel under there and give it a twist, because it's preventing us from being able to lift this any here. And you can just feel under there. See, I've got it disconnected, and so now I just have to get the wire unclipped from that little white piece there that you see right there. Just unclip your little wire, and that's all that's holding that. And then we've got the cigarette lighter to contend with, and you can see this one right here. We have to get that wire slipped underneath that, just like that. Now with that loose, we can actually pull this back and out of the way, but those are just clipped right there for whatever reason. I'm not even going to put those back into those because it just makes it more difficult. So now we can get up here and we just push down and pull that connector out. And so that's all there is to that, and we'll set that aside. Okay, as you come in here, you'll note that we've got some screws. We've got one here, got one missing here. We're going to come down here. We've got a little tab, which I'm going to be using a little thin putty knife to pop that off. And it helps if you've got the little plastic tools to do this stuff with, then it works a lot better, but it's going to pop one way or the other, and we can get to that. We're going to have one on each side that you can see there, and then we also got a couple down in here. Now you can use a Phillips, or you can get an 8mm and get these here loose. And once we get this out, then it really starts making things a lot easier, because then you've got this space cleared out and we can start focusing on the dash itself. But I like to get this out of the way first. Okay, these actually pop out the side. It's got a hinge, so it pops that way. So you'll push right in here and pop it out. It's got a hinge on it, and then we can get to that Phillips right there. Okay, so we're just getting the Phillips a hold of this one on this side, and then we'll move over there and get that other one. And just get you a bucket to keep up with all of your little screws so you're not losing these things in the little tabs. We're just going to do the exact same thing on the opposite side there, and then we'll work on the other ones. Okay, so now we're going to get these two that are right here back behind the shifter. There should be another one there. So we're just going to take that out, and then we'll get on our back ones there. Okay, so now we're back here in this. If you got a lot of trash, you'll have to dig that out to get to these. Okay, then we're back up here below our heat and air controls. We got one on each side. We'll go ahead and get both of these out. Okay, with those out, this is completely loose, and we can work on getting it out of here now. It should slide in between these seats, no problem here. It looks like we've got another wire back here. It's just got a little tab that goes through that. We'll get some needle nose and squeeze that real quick. Or looks like it's connected under here as well. That's for that other cigarette lighter. Okay, so it's easier just to disconnect this. The tab is underneath, you can't see it. You got to reach underneath and push up and then pull that back. So now we can just lift the whole thing together and get it between the seats, and we'll set this out here completely out of our way. Okay, so we got a couple harnesses down here. We'll want to just go ahead and disconnect these. Okay, so that just pushed down right there and it slides off, and then we've got a connector here underneath here that we need to get as well. Okay, so this connector, if you push right here, will pop down, and it's kind of like a hinge sort of thing, and it will come out of there. So we got to get everything disconnected that's going to be connected to the dash, and we got a clip right here as well that we will need to get disconnected. And you can, label stuff as you need. The main thing is just make sure that you're going to know how this goes back together. Okay, and then we're just going to go ahead and get these two that are below the controls here. Okay, then we're just going to go ahead and take these knobs off here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and work on getting the glove box out. We just push in these tabs, and this will fall right down. This should be able just to get it right off of there. Okay, so over here on this passenger side, we look right in here. We just took the glove box out, and we've got a 10mm right there. We just need to get in there with an extension and get that bolt out. Like I said, we're just using this long extension to get up in there. No big deal. Okay, so there's that little bolt out of there. Okay, so back up here in the front, we took the controls off. We've got these two Phillips screws here. Need to get those out. Okay, so you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 screws removed, and you should have your bolt out. that was right there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get right in there with this pry bar. We're going to kind of go in front of this and get right behind it. We're just going to pry on this a little bit and give it a good tug. And there we go. It's popped completely loose. And then we'll have some connections. So be careful if you're pulling this out and pull it on this, because you can break this plastic. So that's why I like to use the pry bar, because it can really be stuck in there. Okay, so we got our connections pulled out here. There'll be a tab on the bottom of that one, and then here you will push down and pull that connection off. And then we've got the one on the back of the radio, and the tab's going to be on the bottom. Like I said, you can't really see, as you can feel them, and just pull and get that out. And this right here has got a clip. Take some needle nose and squeeze that together and pop that off there. Okay, with that off, we've just got the antenna. Just pull that out. And it's a good idea to take a good mental note of where your wires are located. You know, you go pulling these dashes out and you forget how to route stuff. But this is the entire radio, and we'll just set this piece aside for now. Okay, so this one, push in on these tabs here and here and slip this out, and we got the first connection right here, and we're going to have a cable in the back to contend with, but we have to get all this stuff out of our way before we can even think about pulling this dash loose. Okay, so we got that one loose. We're going to push down on that connection and pop that loose. And you can see where I'm pushing down in the very back there, pushing that tab down. And some of these are going to be really stuck. Okay, and take note of your cable control here. Take note of where that's located. And what we're going to do is pop that right up and out of there. We'll just get under it with a screwdriver and pop it loose right here. It's going to come straight up. And then we're going to work on twisting this to where we can get this to orient around, where we can, it simply just kind of has a little L hook and it just hooks in there. So we're just going to flip it around and unhook that, and then this piece will come completely out. But first we got to pop this part up out of that plastic there. Okay, that thing is really in that plastic there. Ignore my last statement. Instead, I found an easier way, is to come over here where the glove box is and look right back here. We're going to follow this cable back right there. Now that's got a tab right there that we can push down on. And let me just show you. I've got this long screwdriver. We're just going to push down right there on that piece. If I can get it to, it should just push down though, right there. See how it's pushing down? Well, that will slip right over that now. We'll just reach in there with our hand. I'm going to slip that right over that. So then we got a little clip right here. It just needs to come out of that. So there we go. Much easier than contending with this over here. And we've got a clip right there. A wire clip's not a big deal. We just need to pry that up, or get our needle nose and pinch it right there and get that loose, and that's all that's holding it at this point. Okay, so we pop that off, and now it's ready to come through. Like I said, just make a mental note of how this wire routes, so when we put it back in here, it's going to go through that same little clip and go back the same way onto that hook. So we can just set this aside now. Okay, so we're going to have bolts down here. So what we're going to do at this point, start focusing on these kick panels and stuff. And these will just come out. We'll just label them. Which side? You can see we got a bolt right there that we'll need to get, and we'll have to also work on these upper pillars and stuff and getting these loose, so we can get to all these bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the same thing. I'm going to get these kick panels off the other side, and then we'll proceed on. Like I say, these just pop up. Okay, and you'll notice that you got these little side panels. Go ahead and pop those out. We got a couple big bolts right there. Okay, we're over here on the passenger. We're going to do the same thing. These just pop out. They're not very difficult. And then you can see the bolt right there holding that. And while we're here on this passenger side, you'll note these connectors. We might as well go ahead and get these loose. You'll just push that and then give this a tug here. Push those forward, give those a tug. Go ahead and get this disconnected. Okay, you'll notice this is taped right here. Just cut that loose, and when we pull this dash, we may just go ahead and take this bolt out as well, unless we can slide these off here pretty easy. But either way, we'll have to slide these wires off, or we'll have to take this whole plastic piece loose so we can pull it out with the dash. Okay, with these connectors, I've just squeezed these with my needle nose pliers and popped them right off of there like that. So now these are loose, and we shouldn't have any problems. Now we can probably need to go ahead and disconnect our blower here. It's pretty easy. You just have to pull down on these and push it, give it a push off of there. So there, that is loose. So it just pushes down, pops it off of there. So now we got all this here loose. We'll go ahead and continue. We'll go over to the other side and see what connections we got here. Okay, and you can see we got several connections here that we're going to have to get, and we may get these as we start taking some of this loose. But everything that's connected to it's going to be connected to the wire harness here, and the frame, we're going to have to get this stuff loose before we'll be able to completely pull this dash out. Okay, this hood release here actually just pulls down. You pull up here in the front, and it's kind of like snapped into this. You give it a tug down, it'll pop down. This just slips in here, just to show you that this is just kind of in this slot right here, and the other end hooks in to this other part, and I've just slipped that out. But this will just pop out of here like that. This part just slips in to this, just like you would see on like a throttle body or whatever. It just slips into that and hooks back around. Okay, and there it is, slipped back into place, just to show you that. Said it's got a slot where it slides out, just pops right out there. So we've got that disconnected. We've got a couple of 8mm right here, and it's actually holding this piece right here, which I want to work on the steering column next. So this is holding me up. So I'm going to get an 8mm, and we're going to take these two out, and then we'll be able. This here just pops out. It's just clips. Just clips here, and just clips over here. This all just pops out. We're going to go ahead and take those out, and then we'll move on. Okay, and this has got one connector right here. So this whole thing just pops down. You can see the clips that are holding it. Just pops into those. And we just put these back here for now. But that piece just pops off. Now it looks like we've got a plate right here as well that may or may not get in our way, but we're going to have to work on getting the screws out of this to get this off of this. So this thing will fold down a little bit. We need to work on getting these loose so we can go ahead and get access to any wires or anything we got here. So we may go ahead and just take this off. It's probably going to wind up being in the way. And while I got this, I can show you this little hood pop a little bit better. You can see the snaps that are on this, and you see how they go. It goes into the back part, and then it just snaps into place, and when it comes through here, it's got the clips that hold it there, and it actually holds pretty solid. So you can see how basically that just pushes down, pops down the front and pushes right out of there. Okay, so under the steering column, you really need to look up in here and see what you're doing. You got a couple of these holes, you'll have these right here. So you just take those out. Okay, so we had one here and one here, and then over here where the tilt handle is, we got a Phillips right there, and I'm just taking that one out. Should have 3 screws there, and the way these things work, they just kind of pop together and you start separating it. You can get a little thin putty knife in here sometimes as well. Just start popping this loose. Let's see, I've got this side coming loose, and so they just kind of snap, lock together like so. And then we can just separate our halves here. Sometimes get stuff that doesn't want to cooperate, and then you got this little rubber piece. It just slips down into there. Has little rubber grommets. And this bottom, we should be able to work it out now. And okay, we do got a connector here, looks like. Okay, so this little bulb just kind of clips down in there. You just push. I pushed on one little side, one little clip of my screwdriver, and then the other side just popped right out. Just those little clips. So we shouldn't have anything else holding this. And so there's that half, and we'll just stick those back together with the screws so we're not losing them. Okay, so this plate has the 4 8mm. We're just going to take this plate completely out of the way just to free up a little more room here. Okay, so you can see we do have some connections here. We're just going to work on these here at first. This has to pull back. This is a locking tab. We'll have to get that pulled back. And then we just push down and Gently work that off. And the next one here is push down here. Give that a tug. These little clips, just going to use some needle nose and squeeze them and then pop them through. We got a couple more connectors to push down on that one, and this one is one of those slide. You slide back and it pops off. And we got another one right here. We're going to push down right there, pull that one off. So and take note of how these are routing. So we've got all these down on the lower loose. We got to work our way up and get this one on the top here and get it on the one that routes around the top over to this one. We'll just push down there, push down on that, and pull that back out of the way, just like so. And then we've got another one right here. Same thing, just push down right there, slip it out. So just take note of where these are located so you route them back the same way. Okay, and that wire's got another one of those tabs back behind the steering wheel here. We'll need to squeeze that with needle nose. Okay, now we can just work this entire wire back, and you can see we got everything free from this, and we got some wire clips here as well. We'll either get them with our needle nose, or we'll just take and cut the electrical tape and take it loose that way. Either way, just whatever's the easiest to do, because we can always zip tie it back or whatever. Okay, so I opted to just take a knife and cut this electrical tape, and I did cut along this plastic piece, not where the wires were, and pulled it down that way. Now we're going to get down here on this, we got a lower panel here. You can simply remove these, or you should be able to remove them just by hand. You got a couple of plastic nuts holding this panel on both sides. Take these loose first, and then once we get these loose, we'll be able to pop this panel out of here, and then we'll get access to this bolt that's holding our steering column. Now once we get this, we can get our we can get on our bolts that's actually bolting it to the frame piece up here. Now that will get that loose, and it's got this little split collar and this here. Just one second. Okay, so I had to get my other hand there. This so it's got a split collar, just slides around there. This just slips down over a stud, and that's all there is to that. Just throw that aside. Now you can see the bolt right here. I think that's a 12 millimeter, but it's been a while since I took this loose. But anyways, what we'll do is we'll take and put a mark on this shaft before we take this loose. In other words, I'll put a mark down here on this side and then on this, so we make sure to get this right back into place the way it is here. We're going to take this bolt completely out. You don't need to hold the other side. We're going to take this bolt out, completely remove it, and then it'll slip up and off. But we need to mark that shaft before we do anything else. And there's also a little piece, little donut thing here, but I don't think we're going to need to mess with any of that to do what we need to do here. Now, I don't have a metal marking pen, so I just like to use some fingernail polish, and it does a good job. And you can see I just put a dot there and a dot on that piece, so I get this back together right. Okay, and this is a 12 millimeter. I've just got a ratchet on here, getting it loose, And it may be a little difficult to break loose depending on how good the Loctite is. Okay, so it's completely loose and we're just taking the bolt completely out. Okay, so we're done with that for the moment. Now we're going to come up here and you'll notice we got 12mm nut, 12mm nut, and then on the other side we've got the same thing. We've got one here in the back and one up here in the front. So that's all of those. Looks like we've got one more connector right here, and I need to get that removed before we go ahead and take these loose. Just double checking things here. Okay, so this cable we're working on here, we got a clip right here. You got to pry out with the screwdriver. And once you get that out, you just pull it back. It kind of pops out of there like so. And that's all there is to it. So just a clip that goes up there and holds it. Okay, so I just got a ratchet with an extension on here, and I'm working on the back ones first. I'm going to get them completely out, and then I'll worry about those front ones there. Like I said, it's 40 degrees out today and the wind is blowing, and it's not real pleasant to be doing this, but that's usually the way stuff goes. So I just got the 3 out. I've left one here, and this is my final one, and I'm gonna have to get a hand on it here because it's ready to fall. And then all we'll do is slip it up off of that. And said it's got a little bit of slack and stuff too, but it'll slip right up off of it. We'll lower this down and then just pull that up and off. But we've only got this one right here left, so I'm gonna have to get a hand on it here. Okay, so here it is, just drop down. Okay, so that has slack, so when you reach down there with your other hand, you drop it down, just kind of pop it up a little bit there. So now it's completely loose. I'm ready to set this thing in the garage and get it out of the way. So we're actually getting somewhere now. Okay, on these pillars you got this part here that slides in that. And the only thing I can figure is sliding it back as far as you can this way, and then popping the lower ones out. But I don't really know exactly what the trick is to this thing. There's like something special you have to do to get it to pop out, and I've had zero luck on mine. But right now I'm working on those because that's going to be in the way. I'm going to go over here. So both of mine was broken from previously because I couldn't figure out what was supposed to make that thing pop out of there. Right now I'm working on this 8mm. I'm going to get these loose on both sides, and then I'm going to start working on some of these big bolts that we have. We'll start working on these up here. 1 second. Okay, these here are going to be 13mm. We'll go ahead and just start getting these two loose. Okay, those are out. I'm going to work on these right here in the center where they're going to be on both sides. Okay, so we got those out right there, and we're just going to go over to the passenger side now and work. Okay, so we're working on the little 8mm over here on the passenger side. Just going to get that completely out. Okay, now we're on this 13, sorry, right here. Okay, so we're back over here on this driver's side. We've got a couple of 8mm to remove on this. So we're just going to take these two out. Then we'll go on to the next step. Okay, now you can just kind of grab a hold of this thing and give it a pull on each of these. And then just set that piece out of your way. We've got 3 more of these holding our cluster gauge in. We're going to go ahead and remove those. Okay, with those three out, this will lift out of here. We're going to have a couple of connections here, and just like the rest of them, just push right there with your fingernail and these will just pull out. Okay, instead of risk breaking this clip and part of the instrument panel, we're just going to take this and just cut that, carefully cut where the electrical tape is there, and we're just going to cut it loose. Okay, so just remember how that went. The long one goes to the left and how this routes. Now we've got these two more of these 13 millimeters revealed, so we're going to go ahead and take those out. Okay, so we're fairly loose at this point. I know I've got some more connections down here to deal with, so I'm going to get down here and see which ones that I need to get loose, and there'll probably be a few, possibly a few other stragglers, but overall everything is pretty much loose and we're ready to get it out of here once we get these few connections here. Okay, now everything's loose. I just want to show you where we're at over here. We got this box and I chose to take it loose. There's just one 10 millimeter holding it up here. Took that loose. It's got a little pin or whatever you want to call it that pops through that the side there, and I pushed that out, and the only ones I disconnected, this one, and there's a couple of these that were connected on the bottom and they were easier to disconnect with that pulled out. You just push in on these and pop them out. This one here has a, you push that clip and it pushes that up. You slide that one out. Now still got a couple more connections here that are on this, and I'm going to take these connections here loose, and like I said, you can label these or whatever you want to do, and that's about all I've got over here. And then I'm going to go to the other side and double check everything. It looks like to me somebody had done some work here or something. They've got some wires spliced in, so having to deal with some of this here as well. But other than that, it's not a big deal. It's taking this loose and taking some of these connections, and then we got, so these here are color coded. These are on a hinge. You just pop those hinges up, those safety hinges. You push in that tab and this thing pops up like that, pops out. It's like most of them. So you just push that tab in right there with your thumb and just pull that hinge up, and those pop right off. So I got those off and disconnected. So like I said, I'm going to take these loose and see if that's everything else I need to free up, and then I'll go over to the other side and double check all that. Okay, so we got all those loose, and I just bundled them together and kind of labeled them as to where they go. And we're just going to go over to this other side and take a look over here. Okay, over here on the passenger side, you can see, looking through the glove box here, we have a few connections going to a few various things here. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So we're just going to go ahead and disconnect all of these. They're pretty self-explanatory where they go, so I don't see there being any confusion on these. This is for that. Okay, so we just got the one more. We got those. There, we got one more right here. Just squeeze underneath and disconnect it. Okay, so we've got all this loose, and so you watch over here, you got like a little locating pin it likes to try to hang up on, but this is all loose, you can see. So we're ready to go ahead and get this out of here. Now I'll probably get a helping hand taking it out just so I'm not damaging anything. As you can see, it's not really that much. You got some connections over here to get, and you got some connections over there. but it's really not that bad. Okay, here it is setting out of the car. It's not all that heavy, it's just kind of awkward to get a hold of, so it definitely helps to have another person if you can, as far as getting it out of the vehicle. Okay, and here's a view of what we have inside of the vehicle. And actually, it's compared to other dashes I've removed, this one is not that bad. I gotta say, the design is not that bad. And you can see I haven't removed my seats. I see I'm moving the seats all the time. I don't know why. Maybe it makes it easier to get under there and get to stuff. I don't know. I never remove the seats. It's not really necessary. But this just gives you a look at everything. Some of your ductwork and your doors. And let me come over to the other side here. Okay, so here's a view from this side. This is your air coming in from the outside. Here's where your cabin filter would go. And this one doesn't have one in it at the time. And this is one of your control. This is the control door right here. Now this thing can act up on you. I know mine was getting stuck when you'd go to switch it all the way to vent. It wouldn't want to move, and I had to get back up in here and put some WD-40 and stuff on it to get it working a little better. But anyways, gives you a good view of it. They actually put the screws in through the top side here, which makes it a little easier. So we're going to get started removing this heater core. Now there's a couple ways that you can go about this, depending on if you want to drain out your R134A or not. So my AC system is working really good. I just spent a lot of money getting it working. I don't want to mess with it. So I'm absolutely going to do whatever I have to do to make sure I don't have to drain my Freon and stuff out. So, but if you're not worried about your AC, if it doesn't work or doesn't work good, you know, go ahead and have it evacuated and just pull the whole thing out. And I'll show you, if you're going to pull this whole thing out, you've got one 10 millimeter there, you got one there, and you got a couple over here. And if you come underneath, you've got one down here and one down here. Now I'm going to have to take these out regardless, because I have to get slack enough to do what I need to do here. So let's go ahead and take out these 10 millimeters. We got like about 6 of them, I guess, and then we're going to proceed on. Okay, so just to show you, we removed those 4 up here, and then we removed the ones down here on the bottom that you can see. Okay, so now we're going to go back under the hood out here for a second. Okay, so right down here is where you're going to disconnect your heater hoses. You'll just have some quick disconnects like this. Just squeeze those and pull those back. They're going to be stuck pretty good. You'll need to wiggle them off of there. Use a screwdriver, whatever you need to do. They're not just going to fall right off. So just go ahead and disconnect those. And you can see I've already had mine disconnected because I've been driving it. So I don't have to do that step. So just go ahead and get those, and then that'll have the slack for that took care of. Oh, another thing is on mine, make sure to put you down there a little drain pan, and you may have lose a little bit of coolant. It's not going to be a lot. And then take these, if you don't have them like I do, and pull them back up here and strap them or something, and then that'll keep that coolant from just steadily dripping out. Okay, so anyways, back in here, the first place that we're going to start is right here. I've got a Torx. This is a T20. We're going to get in here, and we're going to take that one right there holding this first duct loose. Okay, so all these are going to look like this. All these screws are going to be taken out. That's the only thing holding that. Just it clips right here. Just give it a tug and just set that out of your way. Okay, so the next one, you're right here beside this. Take out this one right here. Okay, and that'll give you slack. You won't be able to just take it completely off, but it gives you a little bit of slack, just like that. Okay, so in here, on beside this, there's going to be a little clip. Now this flew off here somewhere. I can't show you, but you're going to take a little flat screwdriver. You're going to get right in there, and you're just going to flip that little clip that's clipped over that. Now it looks just like these. You can see this little tab right here. So all you're going to do is you're going to flip that little clip, and it's going to release that box. That's all you're going to do. There's one right down there. I said it flew off. Okay, with that clip removed, we're going to focus our attention right back up here. We've got 3 of these T20s, and we're just going to go ahead and take these 3 out of the front here now. Okay, so now we're going to pull this box out as much as we can. We're going to try to clear up some slack. Said you can, even though those Frio lines are attached, you can get slack in your box. You could get enough to work a lot of this, and you can see it kind of pull down, and we can move it around a little bit. We've got it off of those. We could get it pulled out enough to get some slack here. Now, what's the hard part about this is why it's definitely easier to take the box out. I'm not telling you not to. It's up to you. But in my case, I'm not going to be taking the box out. I've got 3 more of these that are in the back. So this is where it gets really hard. Now, I can reach them because I've done this before. But I'm going to have to reach down and go over and kind of, pull as much slack as I can and get down in there and feel for these that are back here. And there's 3 of them in the back. It's not easy, but for me, it's way better than having to redo my AC and all the expense and the trouble of that. So that's what I'm going to do at this point. I'm going to get back there and I'm going to take those 3 out. And then the only thing that's going to be holding this, it's got like a few little clips it kind of sits into down here, but it will pull up. There's a locating pin here for the box, and there's one on the diagonal corner in the back, so you have to kind of lift it straight up. I've broken this one previously, not worried about it, but it has to lift up about a quarter, half inch or so there up off of that pin. So once we get the 3 in the back, that's all we have, and this duct here is attached. Be mindful of that. I can get that off if I need to. There's a screw that attaches it like right here, and there's one on the back side, but I can get that out of there. I've done it before. So now I'm going to work on the 3 screws in the back that are just like these, and then we'll follow up here. Okay, so with those out of the back, you can see this is loose now, this top part here. And the only thing it's holding is these little clips over here, but I don't really need to do anything. It will pop up off of there. You could use a screwdriver to pull those out right there. You can see they're right behind this here, like some little clips. But I don't really need to do anything special there. I just need to kind of tug on this and it'll pop up and off of here. Now we do have our heater spouts coming through the back. We have to be mindful of that as we're wiggling this off of here as well. Okay, you can see we're working it up off of here. You can see about how far we've got everything pulled back so we can get slack and get our heater spouts and stuff to clear. We're just going to kind of wiggle it. Everything's pulled back from the screws here. We're going to try to lift it up as much as we can to get it up off of those locating plastic pins there. Okay, so because this duct right here is causing difficulty, we're going to take it off. We've got a screw right down here that's going into that you can see. And we got one more that's back here in the back. And we're going to take both of those out. I'm using a little bitty ratchet. We're going to take both of those out so I can pop this piece out of the way here. Okay, so I'll just pop this piece down out of the way. I don't have to completely remove it. I just need it to get a little more slack here. And now we can work on getting this the rest of the way out. Like I said, it's just hanging up a little bit on these hoses, but you can get enough slack, pull your box, and just start wiggling this out. And we've just about got it here. I just need my other hand here. Okay, and with it pulled back, we're going to slide this foam piece off of here. It's kind of hang up on it a little bit. Slide that foam off. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and completely move it. And this is the heater core. Now you can see that there are screws running in through the side here. So we actually have to split this in half essentially. And I'll show you that. So here it is, and here's your evaporator core right down, sits underneath here. So we didn't have to disturb any of that. You can get enough slack to pull that back and get in there. And this is the difficult to get two screws in the back. So here's where the clip was at. So you got that holding it. You got 3 screws directly in the back. And see this little pin broke, taking it off this time. Not worried about it. The screws will line the box up. I can tell if it sits in this little lip here. I don't need those locating pins to tell me that. So anyways, you got those in the back. You got the 3 in the front. And then the little clip over here. Now that's all it's holding, that piece. Besides some of the other ducts that are attached to it, like this one here. And then you can pull it up and off there. It's a lot better than having to mess with this AC, in my opinion. But you can do it whichever way that you choose. So now we're going to go ahead and get this thing, and we're going to start working on splitting it so we can get our new heater core in here. Okay, so this is the little split collar. We're just going to take those 2 Torx out of there. Okay, so now we're just going to give this thing a tug and pull this old one right out of here. See, I don't see any obvious signs of any leakage, but it definitely, it was clogged up. But I was hoping to see like some leaks or something to kind of explain some of the issues that I had with air seemingly getting trapped. So we're just going to go ahead. We got a new one here, and be very careful when these things are never the same, it seems like. This is pretty close. Be very careful with these fins because it's so easy to damage these. We're just going to carefully push this thing back into place. Just going to take a quick look. It looks pretty close to being the same there. And we're just going to try to carefully push this back in here. Let's see what happens. So right away, the pipes here aren't lining up real good. Actually not lining up worth a flip. So I'm hoping these got enough slack in them that I can just kind of gently push them into place without causing any harm here. Okay, so I'm just putting this little split collar on here. I just kind of like gently push those into place there. Okay, so now we're ready to go back into the car, so we're just going to work on slipping this back into place and just make sure we get it located properly. Okay, so nothing special, we're just going to work it back into that rubber seal and push it back in there. Now I will tell you that I'm not going to be putting these back screws in on mine, so you could choose to do yours how you want, but these up here and this clip will hold it just fine. It's got a couple snaps here, and by the time it gets bolted to this wall up here, it's not going anywhere. So those are difficult to get to. If I have to mess with it again, then I'll pop my front screws out and be done with it. Okay, so I'm just feeding it back into there, go back through that gasket, and I'll make sure that this is seated properly on here before I go to fasten this down. But it's pretty, if you're, like I said, if you haven't broken these little locating pins, you'll have to set it down onto those. Mine are broken. And I want to just show you, even without those pins, mine is into place. You can see this seal around here. If it wasn't into position, then it would not be sitting there like that at all. Okay, I'm just getting ready to replace these three up here in the front. Made sure those snaps were back in over here on this side. Okay, so I was going to replace that little clip back down in there, but I have yet to find it, so I'm not going to worry about it. It's pretty solid with the little clips here and these three in the front. So we're just getting ready to go ahead and push it back into place at this point. We just got one more little duct put on up here. We might go ahead and put this piece back up here before we get it completely locked down. It might make it a little more difficult. So we're just gonna bolt that little piece right there back. Okay, so I was just using my little ratchet here to tighten up this little duct here, and the same for the back. I was just going through here to get to the back one and snug that up. Now I'm just ready to start pushing all this back into place. And we've got our 6 of these. We're just going to get the 4 up top and the 2 that I showed you earlier on the bottom there. And snug, these are 10 millimeters. We got those snugged down really good. We're just going to take this little piece here and put it back on our front. And we just got the one screw that goes right in here in the center of this. Alright, so now we're ready. We just done a check over, ready to go ahead and start placing our dash back in here. And then we'll start reconnecting and getting everything hooked back up and bolting it in. Okay, so I've just loosely set the dash in here, and you notice you got some locating points right here that go up in to that slot. You can see right there. And let's say I've just got it kind of loosely set in here. I'm going to go ahead while I'm over here. These connections we took out, we're just going to start reconnecting. There's those. Now we're just going to work on these back down here. So I like to try to get a lot of stuff reconnected before I go to bolting things in, just to make sure that I'm not going to have a problem. Okay, so just push these over here in. Now I'm going to go over to the other side and start working on all that over there. No, it seems like a lot, but it's really not that much stuff. Once you go to reconnecting this stuff, it goes pretty quick. It's just a lot. It seems like more than it is. So I got a whole bundle here. I'm just gonna plug them back into here lot of those reconnected. I'm going to push this pin back into this side here of this metal and get my bolt going back into there. And then I've got a couple of color-coded connectors up here. I'll just push them. They're on that hinge. They just push back into place. Nothing special. A lot of these, I mean, are just self-explanatory. They only go in one socket, so you pretty much know where they go. Okay, so we're just refastening this bolt right here that holds it to the side here. Okay, now that we got that bolted back, you'll notice that we've got this that just snaps right back into here. And then we've got a couple of these. I said they'll only go one way. And we're just going to snap them right back into those two right there on the bottom. Okay, so we got all these here. I said there was just a couple up top. And then these down here are reconnected. I think we'll go ahead and reconnect the stuff over here on the center console while we've got some slack. And then we'll continue on. We'll start getting some bolts in here. Okay, and there is those connections. And watch your little peg down here. It has to slide on that. Okay, now we got it seated on there. And we're going to go ahead and start with these two up here. Now we got these two, the driver's side. I'm just like to loosely get them started by hand, and then I'll tighten them after I get every one of them in. We've got a couple right here we're going to get next. So just lift it and move it as you need to. Got our little screw that goes back down here. Said I'm just loosely putting everything into place. So we're going to go over here. We've got everything on this side. We're going to go over to the passenger side. We've got one down there on that bottom. Okay, so we got our big bolt. It goes up here. And then we got this smaller one that goes right down here. And we're ready to start snugging everything up. Okay, so I'm just going through snugging everything up now. All the bolts are in place. Okay, so now we're going to be hooking this back up, and it's pretty simple. We just got the longer one going to the left and the shorter one clipping into the right, and then we'll get our 3 screws holding that. Okay, and there we are. Got our 3 screws. Now we just get this piece back into place, and we've got a couple of screws that go right there to hold it, and then the other just snaps in. Okay, now at this point I'm just going to work on getting my steering column back in here. It's the next biggest obstacle. I've got my nuts on here so I wasn't losing them, and we're just going to get it set back into here first, and then we'll get it on to the splines down there and line our marks up. Okay, so we're just working this in here, and we got a whole slew of connectors to reconnect to this thing, but we're going to get it in here and get it bolted in first. Okay, and again down here we lined up our marks that we had on that shaft. You can see we got the mark there. So while we're up here, we're just going to tighten these 4 bolts that are holding this. Now we're going to tighten those down, and we'll go ahead and place this bolt back in here and snug it down as well. Not a bad idea to put some Loctite on that too. Okay, now we're just getting ready to attach wires to the steering column, and you remember this one like ran up and over, and it had a little spot right there, attaches around, and the rest of these are going to go just right under here to various places, but said nothing complicated. We're just going to snap everything back where it went. It's got its own little spot. It'll only go one way. Okay. Alright. Let's see. That one goes over here. Okay, so we just tucked some new tape and rewrapped these a little bit where they were cut loose from earlier, and that's plenty good to hold that. So everything is connected here, so there's not very many connections to make there. This connector underneath the key here, I was getting ready to put this clip on, and it said it just slides up in here and locks that. Okay, we've got our collard we're getting ready to put on that goes around the steering column here. Remember, the little rubber piece up here has to fit in this. This bottom piece, we got to get the little bulb right there snap back into place. Got these 3 screws to go under here. The little black machine screw goes in the back, and the 2 silver ones in the front. Okay, so we got to put this little plate back on here. We got the 4 8mm. I just left them in place so I wasn't losing them. About to put this piece back on. We got the little connector right there. Just snaps into place. And we have these 2 screws that go right down here. 8mm. Okay, we got to hook up our hood pop. So it just slides right back into there, into that slot, hinges back, and then pops into this. Okay, so just like that. And now all we have to do is turn it over, slide that tab in the back, and pop the front in. Okay, I just can't get it one-handed here. Okay, so there we have that. And while we're down here, so we've got a couple more little pieces we can knock out. We got this little side piece. Go ahead and pop that back in. We've got our shroud that goes back around there. We can get that back on there. Remember, it's got these 2 little plastic pieces that hold it on the studs up there. We're just going to get this little panel back into place over here. Okay, so we're just getting this back into place here. Okay, so you remember our controls for our heat and air. We're going to go back through here with this wire. We've got our connections right here. And we're going to go ahead and hook these connectors up as well. Okay, so those 2 connectors, and we'll just slip this back in its place there. And we'll come over here and check our cable. It's going to run right back into there, and we'll pull this right here. It just slips right on that, just like we took it off earlier. Slips right on there, and then just push it in to this right here as well. So just like that. Okay, so we're ready to get our radio back into place, and we've just got the connections. Got our antenna and our other connections here in the back, and we'll hook them up and push it back into place. Okay, so it should look something like that, and this actually pops up here on this. I'm not worried about that. Okay, it's a snug fit back in there. we're just going to get our control. Well, actually, we're going to get these 2 screws here first. There's our 2 screws. And we got our controls back on. And we got our 10 millimeter. We're going to go back up in and put through the side for our radio. Okay, so we got our 2 screws below here that we're tightening up. Okay, now we're just getting ready to work this console piece back down into place here. Okay, and you'll just slide it up on those nubs here. Make sure your cigarette lighter. We're going to connect this for this back cigarette lighter. So we disconnected. Make sure we got our lights here handy. Got the 2 screws up there. You'll have a couple screws right back here behind the shifter. Okay, we got our 2 screws back here in the back of this console. And we're going to have a couple on each side. We're going to get those in and replace those little tabs. Okay, now I'm just getting the one on the other side and getting this little tab on here. Okay, I'm going to slide back through this hole here and reconnect our lighter connection right there. And I just got my 2 bulbs there replaced. If you can see those, I'll just twist lock those in. Just snap that piece right back in place. And we'll just screw our handle back on. We got our cup holder, just slides on, snaps into place, nothing to it. Alright, so I'm getting ready to pop this glove box back in, and it does have a little safety cable. I slipped that thing off a long time ago because it was kind of a nuisance. So we're just going to pop this into these hinges, push it back up. Yeah, I think we'll get on our pillars up here next. Okay, so we got the pillar up here. The best way I can figure is just sliding it into the slotted little pop rivet and just sliding the whole thing down and then popping it into place. Okay, so we've got everything finished up in here, so now we're just going to go out here to the engine bay, and we just got said I'm going to put a little pan down here, but we just got to get these onto our spouts here, and I may just use my new connectors. Sometimes these like to leak, but anyways, we're going to do that and get it hooked up here. Okay, so there are hoses slipped on there. I'm just getting ready to tighten these clamps up. Here is the piece that I used to bypass mine temporarily. It's just a little 3/4 piece, and it comes with some little connectors. Okay, those are snug down, and I didn't lose like maybe a cup of coolant, so I'll just refill it as needed. But anyways, we got them snugged up, and we're just going to get ready to test it out here, get our negative cable reconnected. Alright, so we've had the car running here, and we don't have any leaks or anything, so that's good. And everything's went back together pretty smoothly. And I'm just in here checking out the heat right now. So everything went pretty successful with this. It wasn't too bad. I've worked on a whole lot worse as far as dashes go. But hopefully you found the video helpful, and if you did, give it a like. As always, I invite you to subscribe. Thank you for watching.